All right, this is in response to the claim that artificial intelligences have not yet reached a suitable point to be relied on by humans. The supporting claims for this were, the first one was that AI have misinterpreted their initial programming and their function. Second claim is that they lack a centralized development from the companies that are developing them. And the third claim is that at some point they're going to have a really difficult time integrating into society. So for the speaker's first evidence was that it was about that artificial intelligences are not functioning properly, and the evidence was that a Russian robot escaped its training grounds one day. And the problem with this evidence is that it's only one example, and this wasn't sufficient enough for me, so I found cases where, in fact, robots do function correctly. There's two isolated incidents, such as there's a restaurant in Japan that's actually run by robots, and one of them actually flips and makes pancakes, which I thought was pretty cool. The other one, that was an article by the Daily News, or USA Today, and then the next article was in the Daily News, and it talked about a robot that serves coffee to people, and on record it served 120 coffees in 1 hour. So if this isn't sufficient evidence enough, I found a much larger scale implication of robots, and that was in a Foxconn technology factory. They actually replaced 60,000 workers with robots, and these all function correctly. The next evidence was that it was about a chatbot that was learning from the internet, and it learned really inappropriate conversation. And the problem with this evidence is that the article cited by the speaker from TechCrunch, it actually stated that the chatbot was tested just to see if it could learn conversation. And the problem with that is it did learn conversation from people, it just learned the wrong kind of things. So an implication, if it was used correctly, it could work if it was taught proper conversation. Now, the other problem with this article is that it doesn't really pertain to the proposition. The proposition was that we can't rely on these type of things, but the thing about the chatbot was that we weren't relying on it. It was just simply a test of something that they wanted to see if it works, and it did work in a way. Now, for the second claim, that we're relying on incomplete products because the manufacturers are not centralized. The speakers spoke about how things like Siri and Microsoft's speech recognition are not functioning properly because they're not working on it enough. But I found a study published on Cornell University Library website that it was published on January 25th of this year, and they said that the speech recognition for the Microsoft speech program was actually down to 6.9%. So it was only listening incorrectly 6.9% of the time, and this is cut in half what it has been in previous years. So this to me shows progress that they are working on it. So the question I had was, how is it exactly decentralized if they are working on it separately? The other parts of this evidence were that things like Tesla and Google were working on cars, but again, my train of thought is that Tesla only works on cars, and that's their main focus is that car, is the driverless car. And Google, even their driverless car, they've actually given up complete dominance over it. There is an article on the Inquirer written in December of 2016 that they actually have given up some of their responsibility to other car manufacturers to develop the car more thoroughly rather than taking sole responsibility. And the third claim was that artificial intelligence will have a difficult time integrating in society, and there was actually no evidence during the speech about this, so I did not have much to go off of. But what I did research on my own what possible implications we would need to do in order to use driverless cars, any law changes, and I didn't find anything by any state legislature or any organization saying that we would need to change anything. There were articles speculating things that would need to be changed, but that's much different than actual implication of law that would need to be changed. And since this is the only thing I went off of, that is the only counter I really have to it, because I had no other evidence to go off of. Thank you.
All right, the organizational stuff is pretty solid at the beginning. You remind us of what the advocate's claim is and what the secondary points are. You're signposting those individual points as you get to each one. On the first point, you basically challenge the sufficiency of the Russian robot as an example, and you've got your own counterclaims to suggest that there are demonstrated efficiencies of robots. I'm not sure if the one robot that replaced the 16,000 workers is an example of artificial intelligence or not, but clearly flipping a pancake is a demonstration of artificial intelligence. It knows when the pancake's done. I don't know. The idea that these are the same kind of thing, I think there's a presupposition that that's the truth. I'm not quite sure that that's the truth. If you had anything indicating that these were AI-based robots, that would be a lot more helpful, because I think the advocate did suggest that the Russian robot was really an AI issue. The argument about the chat box, I think you kind of explained, look, it was a test to see if it could learn. It can learn, so it's working. The fact that it learned something inappropriate is not a fault of the artificial intelligence. It just means that we have to be better prepared on those kinds of things. I think that's a reasonable interpretation of that point. I don't know what the advocate would be getting from this beyond the fact that they pointed out that we had a little embarrassing incident. I'm not sure how important that is, and I think you could put that into context. On the second point, I thought that you had a couple of interesting responses. The demonstration that voice recognition has gotten better. I assume that that's an AI-based product, and so demonstrating that there's improvement occurring suggests that progress is occurring regardless of whether or not they are working together or working separately. And I thought that you had good information on Google suggesting that they've turned over responsibility to manufacturers, so they're not trying to control it all. It is being a shared sense of responsibility there, which addresses the argument that the advocate was talking about. On the third point, basically you come down and say, look, there's not really very clear evidence on this point. You don't have any data. They don't have any data. I think that there's probably information that suggests that there are barriers to integrating these things, but it's going to take time to address it. But if the advocate didn't cite any information on that, they didn't quote anybody, there's no reason to believe that there is a barrier, then it's kind of an assertion, although I know that there are examples that do fit this, but I'm not making their argument for them. I'm just suggesting you might want to cover your tail end a little bit more instead of just relying on the absence of their evidence. All right, thank you.